Welcome to your mat today. And I was thinking that we would actually do a little Losar New Year's wood dragon series. So let's first start by coming into coming into a seated position. You can be in easy pose. If you're open in your hips, you can be in half lotus, you can be in full lotus. But wherever you are, be comfortable and feel that you can just really stretch your spine up tall. And then bring your hands to heart center and take a moment to just get quiet. Take a moment to think of someone who you'd like to dedicate your practice to. And let's open with 3 ohms. So empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Ah. And then relax your hands down and move your way into wide-kneed child's pose. It's not why do you need child's pose, but taking your knees as wide as you can, as comfortable-ish, big toes touching, and then stretching your arms out in front of you. And today, take a moment just to breathe into the pose and make a commitment to stay in the posture. You can make small adjustments, especially right when you first come into the posture, to allow it to really suit your body today. And then invite stillness and invite softness. Because it's not this question of contracting and just holding it and being still. It's actually a softening into the stillness. So focusing on the wood dragon, right away when I think of, wood dragon, I think of the liver, because the liver is the organ and the liver pair. So the liver and the gallbladder, they are the organ pair that is connected to wood. Now, in our five element system through the Taoist perspective, we have wood, and then we have fire, we have water, we have metal, and earth. So it's slightly different. It's not just one extra to the Western kind of four elements. It's a it's a different perspective. So instead of having air, there's metal, and then there's wood. So in Dagara system, which is from Western Northern Africa, you also have five. And they also have the earth, the water, the fire. And instead of metal, they have mineral. And instead of wood, they have nature. And there is a little connections both between mineral and metal and wood and nature. But one of the most striking qualities about wood is its level of life in it. So, I mean, probably with all the elements, this is true, but it's so palpable and we can see it in wood. Like we can chop down a tree, we can cure the wood, like letting it sit dry about a year. And then when we we I haven't done this, but those people who do, when you make planks out of a tree and cut up those planks and shave them and paint them and make, probably painting after you make the cabinets, but you can do all these crazy things to them, and still wood is a substance that moves. The temperature of the house, the season, the humidity, this will change how your wood is in the house and how it does. So novices don't account for how much wood will move, and then things get all warped and weird. But that's part of what this education of being a fine cabinet maker is. Fine carpentry, a cabinet maker. But they are often fine, eh? So there's an art to really allowing this very living substance to become part of the substance that shelters us, that gives us sanctuary. Slide your knees together, and if you haven't brought your hands into prayer with your thumbs to the back of your head, do that now while you're like in this little embryo pose. If you've had your practice like that, you can stretch your arms out or take them back behind you. And then stretch your arms forward and slide into Sphinx. Turn my Sphinx around. So you want to grab opposite elbows, squeeze them in, and then just so your elbows are shoulder distance apart, stretch your arms straight forward. You can do, of course, a couple of wiggles to let your hips settle. If your lower back feels fine, you can take your legs wide as your yoga mat. If you're a little sensitive on your lower back, you can bring your legs closer together. If that doesn't meet you enough, you can always slide your elbows forward and let your rib cage come down to the ground. So take a couple breaths and get to know the pose. Let your shoulders be heavy. Sometimes even just adding certain imaginations to your posture has this kind of subtle effect. And one of the imaginations that I often have we're talking about dragons today. So is that my shoulders are wings, that the corners or the tips of my wings are dipped in lead. So they just melt down my back. And while we're in Sphinx pose, today let's add a face yoga pose. And we're going to just turn our chin first to the right shoulder. And then lift up your chin so you really can feel the stretch coming down the side of your throat, maybe even to your collarbone. And then purse your lips like you're about to kiss the whole side of the world good morning or good evening or good day. And then bring your chin down to center and take it to the other side. So sliding your chin to your left shoulder, lift up your chin, purse your lips. Kissing the other side of the world. Good day. You can feel the stretch in your neck. This is helping tone your jawline and your throat. And then bring your chin to center and lift your chin up like you're kissing the stars above you. Pursing your lips, breathing, letting your shoulders drop away from your ears. And then you can even drop your chin a little too low and let the back of your neck stretch. And maybe you feel like you're just sending a mental kiss towards your heart. So one of the gifts that we receive from the images that are given to us from the different animals ruling the lunar year is that all of us who have any stories, have any exposure to dragon, can already start to live into what this could mean. We're having a dragon year. Now I had a fun giggle by myself the other day as I was looking for an image of a wood dragon. And after my frustration of just trying to battle all of the AI images and really trying to find one that was hand carved, I was I was looking through so many images of dragons that it struck me as really funny. It's like we say it's a mythical creature, but they all look the same. I thought that was kind of funny and weird that we would expect there had been more variety. Now, maybe there has been, and we've lost some of the references and some of the images, which is in a way appropriate. And we'll get to why. But still, this mythical creature, any story without even pictures, tells us something about their nature. Now lift up a little bit higher, maybe extending your arms into seal. You can make small adjustments, take your hands a little bit wider, or if you want to have a more intense back bend, slide your hands closer to your hips. And just take a couple breaths and think about dragons. And then roll down to the ground, stack your forearms, resting your forehead on your forearms, wiggle your hips side to side. And we're going to have a little yang moment. So slide your hands underneath your shoulders, tuck your toes under, pull your belly to your spine, and take a full inhale. And with your exhale, you can even blow the mat away and lift up into plank. Ta-da! Yes, beautiful. Pull your hips up into downward facing dog. And then slide forward to plank and lower very slowly down to the ground, letting your shoulder blades kiss back together. Turn your head to your left and stretch both your arms out. And then bend your left knee. Lift up your knee and roll to the outside of your left thigh. And feel that you come into the shoulder opener here. Yep, it was a twister moment. So you're on your belly. You're like in a crucified position, crucified asana. Yes, I said it. You're looking to your left. You take your left knee, bend your left knee, lift up your knee, and then step your left foot behind your right leg, and it like rolls you onto the outside of your right thigh. Beautiful. Now either stay here or maybe see if you can actually pull your left foot with your right hand. So you can just grab your toes and you're pulling your toes towards your buttocks. So you feel your thigh opening up, not literally, just letting the tension come out of your thigh muscle. And then release your foot, step it back onto the ground, stretch your right arm straight out of your shoulder again. And either take your fingers to the mat just below your chin and come onto your fingertips and push with your left arm to come into the shoulder opener more, or you can take your arm up, bend your elbow, wrap your arm behind your ribs, or maybe you can hold hands behind your back without dropping, like without lowering your right arm. You may like bending your left knee. You may even like bringing your left foot up onto the ground. But be in the place where you're right in between too much and not enough. So when we think of dragons, my dragon stuff is like, okay, I have to kind of like get the Lord of uh I have to get TV images out of my mind first. And then I come back to, okay, Saint Michael and the dragon. That's pretty major in my imagination and stories that I've grown up with. Saint George and the dragon as well, of course. And then starting to, think about all the different stories about how dragons are the protectors of jewels and treasures. We have stories that paint them as good or as evil, but in all the stories, it's this serpent like being that has wings and can fly and is large, scary, intimidating, and can breathe fire. So we have a wood dragon breathing fire. Somewhere in there, I feel like there is this analogy because wood is fuel for fire. Even as self knowledge and self acceptance fuels your fire. We can think of fire as really destroying everything. But then we also know that fire can help things regenerate. So controlled forest fires are very healthy. When it's not a well kept forest or not a cared for forest, it can be destructive and scary, but it's showing our imbalance. Take 10 more full deep breaths here. And it's pretty cool that like the dragon breathes, but it doesn't always breathe out fire. It's not like a halitosis situation where it's unavoidable. Notice if it's tempting to rush your 10 breaths or slow them down, but you may be coming to your 10th breath. And then roll onto your belly. And instead of just stretching your left leg back, I want you to bring your left knee up. So you're going to be in sleeping lizard with your left elbow bent, your right ear on the ground, and your left knee bent. With your next inhale, lift up to your elbows. So you're like Sphinx with a frog leg. So romantic. And you may like frog legs, or you may like to stretch your left leg straight out. My foot goes off the camera. I'm trying to squeeze in closer to the wall so you can see what I'm doing. So my left leg is coming straight out from my hip. I have fairly open hips. It might be too much for you, but then we want to be in Sphinx. So it nearly looks like the wing of a Sphinx. Huh? No, yeah, an eagle wing perhaps, or a dragon wing. Yes, stay on topic. But it may serve you better to have your knee bent, and just for space especially, I'm gonna stay here for a moment. With the yin poses, we always want to make sure that we give it our own kind of like adjustment and a little bit of tweak nearly, um, honoring that part of the archetype of yin is that there are varieties within a truth. You know, like we think of a beautiful woman, and I can think of many, 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 many women that I just find radiant and beautiful, and they all look different. I mean, yeah, sure. We have some archaic ideas about like symmetry and this and that and this and that. But you know that you have experienced women be radiant and beautiful of all sorts of, you know, colors and age and weight and height and variety. Now, again, this might be enough for you, or maybe you want to walk your hands closer towards you. Mm-hmm. So then when it becomes seal with a frog leg, that would be awkward. But in mythology, especially, anything's possible. Or maybe we have a dragonfly leg. Now, the attributes of a dragon year is that it's a year of growth and expansion and action. When we look at the occult physiology connections between the liver and the gallbladder and the planets, we have Jupiter and Mars. I mean, hello. That is Jupiter is expansion and Mars is action, initiative, drive. But wood dragon, it talks about that's the growth part, right? So it's not an irresponsible, destructive expansion. It is expansion that fits within natural law. Now, drop your elbows down to the ground if you haven't already, and tuck your right toes under. And let's see if you can do this. You can bend your left knee, and let's see if we can sneak into um, the left side sleeping swan pose. So I'm going to lift up so that my right side is lifted in a plank, even though my knee's still on the ground. And then I'm going to drag my left knee to the outside of my left elbow, bringing my heel in front of my groin, and then stretching through the inside line of my right leg. So I'm stretching my right toes. And then if it's appropriate, you stretch your arms straight forward, forehead on the ground, or you can stack your forearms and rest your forehead onto your forearms. Take a couple breaths to get to know the pose. As we move into this more into this age of Aquarius, I feel like this is part of where we get to have the privilege of all of this access to different mythologies and different stories that have fed people for so long, have brought sustenance to our imaginative world, to our world of the soul, to our cultural world, that we start to see how much we already know of each other, how much of this world we actually share, and that often different mythologies are describing and inviting us towards the same place, no matter, again, of our gender, race, age, or whatever. That all of human culture, human life has these archetypes in common. So with the wood dragon, its very body, its very nature, its very being actually fuels its force, fuels its fire. And then start to walk your hands back towards your knee. Roll your chest up. Once again, you're going to tuck your back toes under and then step your left foot onto the ground. And let's do dragon pose because it seems like the right one. So let's do this version where we have our left knee directly over our left ankle. And you can have your hands either side of your foot, or you can bring your hands to the inside of your foot. And drop your head. That might be plenty for you, or maybe you have a little bit more and you bring your elbows down to the ground. But you don't want to let your knee drastically come in front of your foot. So you want to really allow your knee to stay over your ankle. You might have to wiggle your left foot slightly out to the left. And you can feel the heat of this pose. Now, instead of shying away from the heat today, let's invite another yang moment. And you can tuck your right toes under and push through your heel and lift up your right leg from the ground. So you're in like basically a forearm plank or a plank with a wing. And then release your knee down. Soften a little bit more. We're not going to stay in this a whole 5 minutes. Allow your breath to be nurturing to the good feeling in your body, to meet the fire in your body. And then once again, tuck your right toes under and walk your hands back and bring your hips over your knee, your right knee, and lift up your left foot and start to drop your head towards your left knee. If this is too intense for you, you can let your hips sit back to your heel. But I think most of us can do a little bit with our hips right over our knee. Now, yogi's choice. Either stay here or maybe wiggle your front leg forward and your back knee back and come into Hanumanasana. And then come rising up. And let's come lying onto our belly. You can stack your forearms and bring your forehead onto your forearms. Maybe wiggle your hips side to side a little bit. And just take a moment and feel how your left leg feels. It should feel warm and kind of soft, most likely. All right. So now let's see if we can get all of those parts on the right-hand side. I'm counting on y'all having my back here. So first things first, we're going to take our arms out into a T. It's the letter T, not like green tea. And bend your right knee. You're looking to the right. Bend your right knee. And come up onto your elbows. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Stay there. Stay there. We didn't come up onto our elbows yet. We started here, and you lift up your knee and you step your right foot behind your left leg. Beautiful. Let's take a couple breaths there. And then the interim, we do this little intermediate thing where we maybe, oh, there it is. Can't find our foot at first, but if you can grab your foot with your left hand, go ahead and do that. Feel how you're pulling your right knee back, and it's stretching kind of the belly of your thigh muscle. So in spiritual science, the story of Michael and the dragon is very often told. And it's overcoming the dragon, not so much killing the dragon. Slaying the dragon, yes, somewhat, but it's overcoming the dragon. And it's really, the dragon is a depiction of Lucifer. Okay, now put your right foot on the ground and stretch your left arm straight out from your shoulder again. And if you want, you can come up onto your fingertips with your right hand and help yourself roll a little bit more open. And then if you want, you can stretch your arms behind you and hold hands, or you can just let your right arm bend at the elbow and wrap around your ribs. So the pressure on Your left shoulder is a healing pressure. And the dragon and the serpent have often been just, how to say, shoehorned into the position of evil, but it's not quite so simple. Because when we delve into spiritual science, we find out it's just one of many evils. Now, in modern day, the most relevant would be 1 and 3. 100 years ago, it really was 1 of 2. But just like we as human beings are evolving, you are evolving. So spiritual science is evolving. So evil and good is evolving. The divine is even evolving. And one of the tremendously exciting things about spiritual science is that it isn't whole and complete. It's not finished. It's not, because we human beings are still alive, we're still evolving. It too is evolving with us. So roll on your belly and take your right knee up, bend your right elbow, and keep looking to the right so you're in sleeping lizard. You should feel quite comfortable here. So if you're curious why it's not painful, it's a very, very easy, soft, gentle pose. Rumor has it that even dragons start out as eggs. Interesting, though, isn't it? That they're not even mammals. And then slide your elbows in. And either stay here with your knee bent. So Sphinx with a lizard leg. Or stretch your right leg out so that your right leg comes straight out from your hip. Now, the stories that we have from Michael, the archangel at the time, fighting the dragon, there's a lot of imagery and prose around that Michael keeps the dragon at bay, which is, it doesn't kill the dragon, but it keeps it controlled under his dominance. And, if we recognize where in our life do we have incredible force, and sometimes even by accident, we can breathe the destructive fire like a dragon. We might have learned already that that's an area that we need to really keep at bay, that we don't let it master us, but we must master it. And sometimes that fierceness can be a protector, can be a force that regenerates. Now, either stay on your elbows or maybe stretch your arms out. Now, what I say, it's exciting. It's exciting to be in spiritual science today. It is because we have to really take into account that Rudolf Steiner was working 100 years ago. Now, just for a wee bit, just think about, okay, what progress have we seen in our lives, or in our lives, if you're 100, or in, in the world that we've learned about already? So we can say, okay, 100 years ago, electricity was new. We can think about all of the crazy technologies. All right, do you feel ready to transition to sleeping swan, I believe it is? So I'm going to tuck my back toes under, lift up, and bring my knee forward, and bring my heel in front of my groin. Wiggle my heel in front of my groin, and then stretch my arms forward. I feel like we're missing something. Sabine, you're really dark. Did we miss something there? It's okay. We do things on one side all day long and we're fine. We'll get there. So let yourself soften. So, in the spiritual world, since the time of Rudolf Steiner, Michael fulfilled their job as an archangel and has graduated, one could say, to become an archai. And now we are in an era where we should actually be turning to the archangel Vidar. You may know his name from the Norse mythology. He's sometimes referred to as the silent god. But one could say that his time has come and he is speaking. And so from fighting the dragon, we are actually moving on to fighting the wolf. But this is a different story for a different time. But when we think about this idea of mastery, and even that the archangel Michael has ascended to the next rank of angels, to the archai, then we can start to understand that we are even more responsible to keep our fiery dragonness at bay ourselves, because we have more work to do. All right, so let's see how we're going to transition. We're going to come into dragon pose. So you're going to lift up your arms, lift up your left leg, and step your right foot forward. That would be awkward, dragon. Okay. And you can have your hands either side of your right foot, or I prefer for myself to have it on the inside of my right foot. I just need to step my right foot a little bit out to the right so my knee doesn't drop out. And then either staying up on your hands here and just dropping your head, or coming down onto your forearms. We can even imagine really this idea of, mastery of keeping the dragon at bay is actually allowing our dragon nature to be part of our creative force. So either stay here or tuck your back toes under, extending your left leg, really inviting the fire in the pose. And then release your knee down. Start to walk your hands back. And you're going to shift back so that your hips are over your left knee and you lift up your right foot. And drop your forehead towards your knee. This is a Hanuman Asa preparation. I nearly want to call it like humble dragon. So in this year of the dragon, we want to see how we can invite this force that so easily can become destructive and evil to be a power that helps us cut through illusion and burn down, untruths, disarm hate. Either stay here, or if it's there for you, slide your right heel forward, stretching your left toes out, coming into Hanumanasana. And then just rolling onto your right buttocks, you can sweep your left leg in front of you. Bend your knees. You might want to grab a blanket close by. It's time. And slide down to the ground, coming into Shavasana. Let your hands be open to the ceiling. Your toes are wide at the outside of your mat, your toes dropping out to the sides, your eyes closed and trusting. With your next inhale, invite your breath to the edges of your body. Feel that it carries your awareness, maybe not so much fire. And then stretch your arms up over your head, wiggle your feet away from your hands and vice versa. Maybe smile. And with your exhale, hug your knees to your chest, and then using your right arm as a pillow, roll onto your right hand side, letting your heart be closer to the sky. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Allow your hands to meet at heart center. And just rub your palms together vigorously so you really feel like you have hot fire in between your hands. And then bring your prayer hands to your heart center. Close your eyes. Lift up tall. Think of the person you dedicated your class to. And let's close with one Om. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward, together we say, Namaste. And so much love. Woo-hoo.